All right, guys, we are back again. Dynamic Man Podcast, episode 18. And we are talking today about the male wall and the cost of giving up on loving kids. Before we get going with this, drop a comment. If you guys are watching, drop a comment. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I want you guys to participate in here. Mention all the questions you guys have. My kids are playing on the balcony over there, and even though it's totally safe, it freaks me out still just because it's a very high balcony. So I'm like glancing back there. If you guys are watching, drop a comment, and we will get this show on the road. We are talking today about the male wall. So there's a number of different things that came up, number of different discussions. As usual, we're going to go and we're going to cover some of these conversations on X that happened over the last few days. But one that I have gotten a lot of commentary about, including in my masterclass group, and I'm going to share an answer to some of the questions in there, has to do with the male wall. So first off, what is the concept of a wall? Most of you guys know what the wall is. Super popularized term from the red pill, mostly applying to women. And I don't have one of these graphs with me, but the typical manosphere graph is like shows women peaking at like 22 or maybe 25 and then just like plummeting, whereas they have men just like going up and up and up and up and up. And it's just like this super, super, super gradual decline. The guy's like 65, it's like just barely declining. 65-year-old guys barely at the level of a 35-year-old woman. And this stuff is total fucking nonsense. It's total fucking nonsense. It's amazing how deluded guys in the red pill get about reality. The whole thing truly is an ideology. You take some observations, some facts, mostly about women, and then you blow it out of proportion. You make it like the be all end all, nothing else matters. And then you become completely ignorant about how you are perceived by women. Like, this is the thing, and I've said this numerous times. The red pill has some very good insights about women, and it has like zero insights about men. Like, the guys in the red pill like have like negative self-awareness for the most part about how their choices, how their actions are perceived by women. They don't understand themselves. They understand women a little bit, but they don't understand themselves. So to go into this more, the wall. Is it true that women's value, sexually speaking, begins to decline, let's say by 25? Yes, it's absolutely true. And I think that you can actually make arguments if you want to be really strict about it. I think that you can make arguments that turning point for a woman is earlier. You could make arguments that happens even as early as 20, that there's a decline. But I think, let's say 25. I'm not trying to say that to be PC, but I'll just tell you, like, historically speaking, different groups have different value propositions. So like if you look at the groups that came to America, for instance, in New England, in Puritan New England, the average age of marriage was around 25. It was like the men were like 2 years older than the women. So the men were like 25 to 27 and the women were like 23 to 25, 24, 26, right? It was around that range. So that was considered normal for a woman to marry at that point. In more aristocratic circles, the age of marriage was typically earlier for the women and later for the men. So the men would be late 20s and the women would be late teens to 20. If you go back to, let's say late 1800s, or let's say 1800s in general, women would hit the scene for marriage at age 16. And if they weren't married by age 20, they were considered to be old news. So I'm saying this, that there's always been some calibration and context around this stuff. But early 20s, let's say it's around that range, and if we're going to be just generous and round late here, let's say that women start to decline in value at 25. I think 25 is a good date. I think it's a good date for a couple of reasons, because 25 is also where women develop more maturity. People in general develop more maturity. So whether it's technically like 22, it doesn't really matter. It's fairly flat throughout this entire period, and you only start to notice measurable decline after 25 in terms of options, or in terms of value. So 25 for women. That's long-winded, but I want to flesh this stuff out. So women start to go down at 25, but you don't start to see the acceleration of that curve until you get to 30. Things start to really matter much more when a woman gets to 30 in terms of how she's perceived in the market. All this stuff has been said by the red pill, and it's totally true. Whether you want to quibble about the ages and stuff, it's totally true. Now, the question is, what about men? And the arguments, of course, have been that men don't really have this problem because men continue to appreciate and value, and women want, older men, because older men are more established. Well, first off, there's like a million assumptions in there. Okay? And the first thing about these assumptions that I think is important to say is that if you want to make the classic red pill quip that men age like wine and women age like milk, fair enough. But I'm a wine guy, right? I'm a wine guy. I worked in the wine industry. I know a lot about wine. And most wine isn't meant for aging. Most wine is meant to be drunk young. And if it's not drunk young, it turns into vinegar. It's trash. You don't drink it. So what does that mean? What that means is that even if it's true men age like wine, most of the men are not going to age well. Only a very, very small handful of elite wines age well. So there's a decline that's going to happen. And for guys who are really, really honest about this, that decline happens by age 35. Now, I think just in the same sort of way that we were talking about how, with women, is it 25? Is it 22? Okay. I think it's the same thing with men. Is it 32? Is it 35? But I think just to make it clear, by 35, a man's sexual market value is going to go down. It's going to go down. Or at least you're starting to suffer substantially more headwinds. We can say that this is where you hit the wall, because the wall is a biological thing, right? So a lot of women who look fucking hot, who are 35 or 40. I'm not hitting this. I'm not hearing this stuff that there's no hot women in their late 30s or in their 40s, especially today. There's a lot of hot women at that. I don't want to say a lot, but there are hot women at that demographic. Guys are still going to be very interested in them sexually, but there's a decline in value. There's a decline in how they're slotted is differently. And this is the same thing for guys after they pass 35. And part of this is because, and I didn't add this this tweet to the stuff today, so I'll show you guys my tweet. Reminder: the constant manosphere discourse that men continue to appreciate and value is complete delusion. Even elite men start experiencing a fall off in options after 35, and it quickly accelerates after 40. It's not too late to get the girl, but don't pretend time is on your side. Right? This is it. This is the tweet. Because women are interested in youthfulness for guys. They're interested in it for guys. This is something that a lot of women, a lot of guys, unfortunately, in the manosphere, they don't want to admit. They do not want to accept it, but it's the reality. This is what happens. This is what happens. This is what is experienced by women. Women want youthfulness in men. It's sexually attractive to them. Even if you're an older man, the key to being an older man dating younger women is not to act old, not to look old, not to act old. Because women want all the experience they can get from you. They love the experience they can get, but they do not want you to feel old. They do not want you to feel old. If you feel old, then they are going to be very, very unattractive to you. I'm going to read this right now to you. Lot of manosphere guys strangely do not think youth is attractive to women. Yes, women want resources, status, and competence in a man too, but from a pure lust perspective, women prefer youth just as much as men. They like an older man's experience on his age. Do not act old, okay? So what does this mean? What does this mean? Well, before I tell you what it means, I'm going to check these comments real quick. We got Romeo here. I'm 30, just want to have one kid with a woman that's not divorced or a single mother already. It's not too late. It's not too late. But, you know, I think, and I don't have to tell you this, I wouldn't be lying if I told you that it was going to be easy at 50. It's not going to be super easy. It's not super easy. And you're almost certainly, I say almost certainly because every guy's exception, right? We know Leonardo DiCaprio is picking up girls who are 20, no problem, over and over again. So a lot depends on your individual circumstances as a guy. But if you're a guy who's 50 and you want a younger woman and you want to have kids, you're probably going to be going after a girl who is in her 30s, right? If you follow my favorite heuristic, and it's a really good heuristic, it's actually a really, really good heuristic. And this is what I said in the Manosphere group, in the masterclass group. It's a 0.5+7 rule, which means by late 30s, you're not going to be going for younger than mid 20s. Most should be aiming realistically for late 20s, early 30s. If you're 50, that means your bottom range, you know, I'm not saying bottom that you're allowed to, but bottom that you will have relatively like ease of getting without too much roadblocks or resistance, either psychologically or whenever from the social dynamics. It's going to be 32 in that case, right? It's going to be 32 because 25 plus 7 is 32. And that's plenty to be able to have a kid. This was about, though, the men's wall thing, because of this manosphere discourse, people just do not, guys are making bad decisions. Guys are thinking that they can just keep putting this off and their value is going to, as long as they're like building, as long as they're doing X or Y, their value is going to keep going up. And to a certain extent, that is just not true. Now, you can compensate for the fact that you're aging. And just in the same way that I said, you know, a girl's value starts to decline after 25, but it's not really palpable until 30, that, you know, that they're actually losing some pull. It's the same thing with men 35 to 40. But just because you haven't experienced like a substantial change yet, it's just a little bit around the edges. It's a little bit, but women are looking at you like you are starting to be considered an older man in the dating market, and younger women, there's going to be more resistance around that accordingly. So when you get to 35, understand that, you know, these next 5 years are important. There doesn't mean that it's over for you in your 40s or your 50s for that matter, right? Even if you want to have kids, it doesn't mean it's over for you. Guys in their 50s can still have kids. Guys in their 40s definitely can still have kids. But do not think for a second that you have an easier time than a guy who is in their late 30s, late 20s, early 30s, which I would say is the peak for men. You know, I think men peak about at 30. You can make an argument that it goes all the way up to like 33, but there's no question that beyond that, guys are not considered, like, the early 30s are a really great sweet spot because you're still totally young. You're fun. You're, you know, ideally fit. Like, you feel like still like a young guy, but you have some degree of establishment there. Like the issues that a guy in his early 20s faces in terms of not having his life together, not being taken seriously, not having experience or authority, that's mitigated by the time you get to your late 20s and certainly early 30s. You're just considered to be a very different type of man by that point. You're actually considered, arguably, you're considered to be a man after 25, once your frontal lobe is there. Before that, you can't run for Congress if you're not 25 years old. So it's the same kind of thing. Like, you can't get a woman to take you seriously if you're under 25 years old. It's about, this is about what it is. It's about a 10-year difference between men and women when it comes to the wall. So guys argue like, well, no, men don't. I've had this guys argue that like, no, men don't really decline till 40. It's like, okay, then women don't really decline till 30. Like, I don't want to belabor this, guys. I don't want to belabor it. But this kind of narrative stuff really affects people. And I really appreciate that Super Collider said this, because I know as a coach, I have heard so much. Like I've worked with guys who are detoxing from the red pill, who made really bad decisions because of red pill propaganda. And he's saying it right here. These red pill men ruined my life and told me basically not to date until I turned 35. That's what I did all throughout my 20s. I thought there was some secret that I wouldn't understand until I got older. The only secret I realized was I could have asked out so many girls. And I guess this tweet got cut off, but what he was basically, I think I actually have the rest of it here. The only secret I realized was that I could have asked out so many girls, but didn't. And now I am old and girls seem less interested in me. French OG made a great comment as well, talking about how the transactional nature of things increases as you get at over 35. So it's not that you still can't get a younger woman, but the women are now assessing you so much more from the standpoint of like, what are you offering me? What can I get out of the position that you've established, rather than, oh, this guy is like, just like, I'm just so fucking turned on by this guy. Like, I really want him sexually on the same level. It just starts to mute. It starts to decline. Even if you're not getting super young women and the value differential isn't there, it's just a product of getting older in general. People are looking much more on, okay, what are the other things this person brings to the table? They matter much more than the sexual element of things. Whereas a girl in her 20s, especially your early 20s, you're taking her pure off biological value. Not purely, but you know what I mean? Mostly off of biological value. She's hot. She's, she's hot, right? She's hot. She's fertile. It's a very similar thing for guys. Like, this guy's hot and he's not retarded. Like, he got himself together enough. I can see he's got a future ahead of him. It's the same sort of stuff. But from a lust perspective, from a pure lust perspective, there's no question that women prefer younger men. And that's why you see all the time, you see the cougars. What do the cougars go for? Cougars go for the younger men. Now, part of that's because a lot of them have a more masculine energy, but they go for the younger men because they want the sex and they find it attractive to get that. That's what they want it, just like the guys want it. It's not any different. It's just that women have so many different variables that they like to balance. So you should consider this if you're trying to get serious with a woman, that if you are going to take any of the red pill advice and you are going to figure things out and delay, but when you get to 30, you should be trying to get better with women by age 25. You should spend your 20s trying to get good with women, and you should spend, by the time you get to 30, you should be making choices about picking girls to settle down, so you can pick girls at peak market material. So Donna's saying cougars go for younger man because he's more easily manipulated. I think that there's some truth with that, in the sense that those men don't have the resources, and the cougar the cougar has more authority from life experience over these younger guys typically. So she has like things, she can offer him things that a guy in her own bracket couldn't necessarily offer. But at the same time, I don't think that there's any question that they like the fact that these guys are young and attractive. There's no question about it. So anyway, if you guys want to get married, if you want to get married, you want to have kids, you should be really choosing. Like if you're going to take the same advice that the red pill gives women, which is, women should be getting married in their early 20s because that's when they're at their peak sexual market value and they're going to get the best guys. Well, the same argument is made for guys who are in their late 20s, early 30s, right? It's the same argument you're going to be making. So no more screwing around after your 20s, guys. If you want to get the best you have to offer in the market. I'm not saying that you can't get good. I'm not saying you can't still do really great for yourself, but don't pretend you're making it easier. There's a difference between something being possible and something being easy. Nobody said that you are not going to be able to get a hot girl if you're 40 or 50. It's totally possible, but anybody who says it's going to be easier than it could be at 30 is lying to you. Simple fact off the bat right there. As Romeo says right here, time's the most expensive commodity. Indeed it is. So, but what if you want to go into marriage? Well, a lot of guys are saying marriage is just not worth it. So you have this talking out of both sides of your mouth, right? On one hand, I'm getting more valuable as I get older. On the other hand, don't get married. And look, I did a prior video talking about the risk assessment when it comes to marriage. I don't want to rehash the topic. Okay. I don't want to entirely rehash this topic, but there are things I want to say about this, especially in light of Homath, who, I'm talking about it because this is one of those things that, it went viral. I think Homath is great. I think his content's great. I think he's a very intelligent guy. And this is not a pile on whatsoever on him, right? It's not a pile on at all. But I do think that this tells you something about the sickness in the red pill in general. This is a guy who very clearly understands how women works, but and people are raving about his course too. I'm sure it's great. You say, it's way too late for me to have a real life. I'm not getting married. I'm not ever having a real relationship. I'm not ever going to build a house or buy one or make it the way I like it. I don't have the time or energy for any of that. I'm an adult adolescent until death now. I got no chance to start any sort of life that makes sense. I'm 40, right? I'm not in great health from stress stemming from the pandemic, and I can't handle 100% of my own needs, never mind a family. Sure, there's a lot I can contribute to the world, but I'm not going to get much back for it. No matter how much money I get, there isn't much I can do with it. Maybe get a nice place to live or a car, but not a real life. This is a very depressing post. I respect the vulnerability. Especially in a place like Twitter, where you really just got jackals all over the place. So I respect the vulnerability. And again, not even talking about this in a sense of disrespect, but this is a real ideology of despair. And what is it about people who seem to try to understand these dynamics? People who seem to understand these dynamics, who cannot possibly hope for anything good. I don't understand this. And I think it's the real issue. And if I can be just blunt, speak plainly, it's one of the reasons that I'm a successful coach, is because it's not just about competence. It's about, do you actually believe that people are able to get results? Do you actually believe that guys have a chance? And the problem for people, and one of the things I work on with clients, you have to have like a certain baseline of hope, right, to even decide to go work with a coach. But a lot of what I do is like this energy transference, where it's like, no, you can get this. Like, why are you giving up? You can get this. It may not be easy. It may take some sacrifice. You may have to do this or this, but don't pretend it's not possible. And this is the problem I get when I hear people saying like, oh, marriage isn't going to work. It's not, I can't do it. Sometimes it's like Homath's talking about his age, but other guys are just talking about in general, right? They say it's not going to happen. And so I responded to this. I said, the framing of the modern argument against marriage is that you shouldn't do it because it's risky and difficult. This framing is the crux of the problem. First off, Everything worth doing in life has dangers and challenges, but let's put the benefits argument aside because it's been endlessly rehashed. Let's look at it on a deeper level. What are the risks and difficulties of not being married or having children? Nobody talks about this because few people in this corner of the internet are 60 plus and have to live with this reality. They consider the cost of having kids with the wrong woman and getting divorced worse than any other reality. The only problem is you will never meet a divorced person who regrets having their kids. Even if it meant losing half their assets, the kid gives meaning to their life that is priceless. They are always grateful for it. Meanwhile, you rarely hear the reverse or the inverse. What does this mean? It means the people who are against marriage and children are fucking stupid. It means they don't understand what it will actually add value to people's lives, and they are too afraid of losing material things in exchange to get the transcendent. Yes, it is harder than it used to be to meet a great woman and have a great marriage. And yes, the cost of it not working out are higher. More skills and awareness are required to have a high likelihood of success. But for the 90% of people, love and progeny remain the most important risk they will ever take in their lives. Not their jobs, not whatever other bullshit they make up is important. By encouraging people to not take this risk, you are not facilitating the next Tesla. You're usually just helping some guy rationalize playing more video games rather than talk to women, or creating the next manosphere influence, some 40-plus guy who missed the boat on having a meaningful existence and has to spend his midlife crisis narrating why it was smart he fucked up because he hopes the alternative was worse. Now, this is harsh, but again, don't want to rehash the marriage risk assessment thing here, endlessly, but people don't understand what they're missing. They don't understand because they haven't been there. And that's true with anything in life. But when you're making these arguments and you're ignoring people's testimony about who have been on both sides, like, I'm not saying that there are actually zero men who regret who wish they didn't have their kids. They hated their ex-wife so much that they don't even care if they had kids. I'm sure there are some people like that out there. They are like such a minute minority. I've worked with guys who are older, who are divorced, have had a rough run of things. They want to get out there. They want to find love again. They don't want to give up on life. But even if they're struggling with women, even if they were totally blindsided by the divorce, even if they were divorce raped, I've had some clients. I've had probably one of my clients, probably the most divorce rape client in the world, right? We're talking like millions of dollars, and they might put him in prison, and his wife is a total fucking sociopathic bitch. This guy has more reason to complain about this stuff than ever anything else. And he would not complain. And he's not even have a great relationship with his kids because they were manipulated. And even he would not be saying the kind of stuff that these guys are talking about. Because he has the reason he's so successful is he has a completely different attitude. He has a more resilient attitude. And I don't like doing this. I don't like the pile on thing, right? But I have to just say that if your belief on things is so like risk averse, like I don't want to lose my money, I can't have, it's because you're a fucking loser. On some level, you're a fucking loser. On some level, you have no resilience towards life. And you are playing not to lose, rather than playing to win. And I'm going to tell you guys something about life. If you are just playing not to lose, you are going to fucking lose. Doesn't matter what domain we're talking about here. You are going to lose because there's somebody out there who wants to win. Whether that's in war. If you just play defensively in war all the time and you are never going on the offense, you will lose, even if you have a good defensive strategy. I mean, classic example, right? The Maginot Line in France. And I don't want to I don't want to go into all that stuff, but you have to play to win in life. And playing to win means taking risks, but it means choosing the risks you're taking. It means saying, I'm going to confront things. And when you confront things, you get fortune on your side, and because you have this extra sense of agency, you're able to get through things better, and you're able to get what you want, even if you have to go through hardship. But if you're just playing not to lose, like, God, I don't want to lose my money. I don't like I'm afraid a woman's going to divorce rape me. So what the fuck do you do instead? Well, most of these guys don't do anything. They really don't do much of anything. They're in this corner of the internet. They're complaining still. They're not doing much of anything. And they might get cancer and they might die. Again, this is not meant to be in a harsh way. I love Scott Adams, but I'm going to use Scott Adams, is struggling with serious cancer right now, hoping that he manages to pull through. Scott Adams doesn't have children. Scott Adams has been divorced twice. He's been a big critic of all these things. What did Scott Adams say when he was talking about the things that mattered? It was watching Disney movies with his stepchildren. They weren't even his biological children. They were his stepchildren. And this was the stuff that meant the most to him. This is someone who has had a bigger impact on the world than anybody else practically in the entire Manosphere corner. I'm not saying he's a Manosphere figure, but he's an important person. He'll be remembered in history for the impacts that he made in shifting conversations and consciousness. Even just for the Dilbert comic strip would have been enough, but he's had a profound influence on the world. And he says that is what he looks at and gets emotional about and misses. And they weren't even his own children. So how fucking arrogant and stupid are you when you say, none of that stuff is worth it because a woman might divorce me and might take some money? I can't take these guys seriously. I can't take it seriously because it's just so like crybaby stuff. If you had a 70% chance of giving you food poisoning, resulting in 12 years of poverty because you like, what fucking crazy scenarios? I'm not saying these things don't ever happen, but it's not 70%. The odds keep going up every time, right? It's not 70%, even if you're an idiot. And then you get into all the details of like, did you vet properly? Do you understand attraction? Have you, you're spending time in this corner of the internet, you would think you would learn something. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you can actually use that information for something besides for complaining. So they're always just looking at what bad could happen. Like, you need to balance the risk reward right now, and there isn't enough to entice men to the gambit. There's not enough, frankly, to entice stupid men into the gambit, because it's not a gambit. It is literally your biology, why you were designed. Having children, like, you want to talk about psyops? You want to talk about psyops here? Here's a great psyop. A great psyop is, it's not worth it for you to reproduce. Just die. Just don't be in love with anybody. Don't have kids. Just work and die. And then for you to think, I'm making a smart decision. I'm smart. They're dumb. Look at what they're doing. They're having kids. They're having families. Ha ha, that might not work. I'm smart. Do you understand how stupid this sounds? You've been convinced to eliminate yourself. Now, look, some people, for personal reasons, don't want to have children. I'm not trying to like get people in the crossfire. I'm not trying to be mean. I got tons of mutuals. I got tons of mutuals who would have loved to have kids. Things didn't work out. I'm not talking to these people. I'm not trying to like enhance any negative feelings that they might have. But I have to, in good conscience, go after these narratives that poison subsequent generations of men. The rewards are still worth it, even if the risks have gone up. That's just the reality of how it is. The rewards are still worth it. Because even if you do get divorced, and we're talking about a number of things. We're talking about you didn't pick the woman properly. You didn't understand how to deal with women. You didn't try to fix things when they started to get bad. You get divorced. Then you have to deal with, is it even a bad divorce? All divorce is bad. Some divorces are terrible. You start going down this like ladder of bad. One bad thing has to happen, another bad thing has to happen. Most people bounce back from divorces and live pretty good lives. Most people do that. And they've got kids at least to show from it. Because the divorces that really wipe you out are the ones, of course, that have kids. Because, you know, and I have some people who say, well, you know, marriage and kids is like kids are fine, but just don't get married. Like I'm this is not a hill I'm willing to die on. I'm pro marriage. I get the legal stuff. You want to do like a hand fasting, right? You don't want to have a legal marriage. You just want to be permanently engaged and have kids, or cohabitate and have kids. Whatever, man. I'm not gonna die on this hill. This isn't. I'm not dogmatic about this stuff, but you're not really protecting yourself that much. Being honest here, you're not protecting yourself that much, because it's only if you have a lot of money and your wife doesn't work at all that you are really going to get into any kind of alimony situation, asset situation where it's a major problem. If that's what you're dealing with, then, you know, fair enough. You can also get a prenup and accomplish a lot of that, but whatever you want to do. But the point is that it's child support. We know child support's the real reason that these things are a problem. But there's costs. There are costs beyond money. And as somebody who has two kids, I can just tell you, like, I always have to remind myself, like when I'm working, I'm doing things. My daughter asked me, you know, like it's just earlier today. She's like, she fell asleep on my lap. I was trying to work. So I sit with her for a bit. I go to put her down, and she kind of wakes up. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I have to go work." She's like, "I just want you to cuddle with me." I'm like, you know what? I'm going to cuddle with her, because I know I have to keep reminding myself, but I know that these are the moments I'm going to miss more than I miss anything else. I'm not going to remember that fucking task I had to do that day. I'm going to miss that 5 minutes of lying down with her while she goes to sleep. And she wants to cuddle with me because she won't want to cuddle with me forever. I have to savor it. It goes by fast. I lost a year already from prison. People don't know what they're missing. Sometimes you make a deal with somebody and it doesn't work out, but it doesn't mean you don't get anything out of it. You can go through a divorce and you can still end up better for it in the end. After going through the hardship, the financial loss, you can end up better for it because you have the kids. You can end up better for it because you learned a lot about yourself. You became a better person through it. You can use these hardships in a constructive manner. I can tell you that firsthand. You can use it in a constructive manner. You can make it grow. You can make it part of your life story, a more richer part of your life story. You can be the guy who climbs out of the ashes and rises again. I have so many clients who were divorced, sometimes divorced twice, go on, end up with a phenomenal woman, have a great marriage, maybe even have more kids. You got to be more resilient, guys. You guys got to be more resilient. You got to understand the real risk reward ratio of things and go and do that, because there are real costs to this stuff. And this is what I'm saying here. I will repeat. My point is, because they keep saying, like, is it worth it? And it's not worth it. The risk. My point is that even with the cultural and core problems, the risk reward ratio of 11 children is still vastly positive. Guys do not understand what they are missing, so they are pricing the decision incorrectly. You will regret it later in life. And this is the big thing here, is that guys rationalize this decision by saying they have no options anyway. And this is like, it's crazy to me how you look. You go and look and you say, yeah, look at what a lot of shitlib younger women believe. Yeah, they're probably not good material. And then you just think that those are the only women that exist, that there's no other women who exist ever out there. Like, this is what you get from being online too long. I'm pretty sure actually his comment is beneath here. No, now there is a whole new world out there. And in that world, what men want, fit, feminine, friendly, cooperative, submissive, no kids, also matters. The women refusing to offer and give men what they want is not men's problem to solve. It is your problem if you like. This is like the convoluted logic. Like, what do you want? Like, you think that these guys think that they're like somehow getting one up on women by not reproducing. Women do not care. Women do not care. They actually love the fact that these kind of guys don't have kids. And I'm not saying that I love it. I don't love it necessarily, because I think a lot of these guys are just hurting. But I'm telling you that women, you are not going to make a woman, you're not going to like get one over on a woman because you decided that you were going to go your own way, that you decided you were not going to date women anymore. Like, they don't care. They just don't give a shit about that at all. So you can find an attractive woman who loves men, loves kids. You just got to become valuable. You got to align with the right values. People, you got to screen out the bad women. Anybody telling you just like, I am not it's a straw man argument. I'm not some like dogmatic tradcon who says, look for one single variable. Like, does she say she loves Jesus, which is just her saying she loves Jesus, and as every other variable trash? Well, it doesn't matter if she loves Jesus. Like, I'm not one of these fucking retards. Okay? You gotta understand how to vet women, understand what's going on with them. And look, Jesus is good. Jesus is good. I'm not disputing this. All about Jesus. But this is the point, right? You gotta do your vetting work, and you gotta minimize the odds of something negative happening. Don't marry some woman who is totally bad news. It doesn't make any sense. I think that that's the main gist of all this stuff. But I just want to, close this show out, guys, with a few comments in here. So we got Matthias here. I'm 47 and doing good in this regard, but of course I would tell every single younger man not to go this route. Getting married earlier in life is best for most men. It is. And look, and this is what's so great about this is also there are some men who don't want to get married and don't want to have children. And there are some women who don't want to get married and don't want to have children. And I'm not trying to insult these people or their choices, because, even though we may have our own preferences, you have to know, like, to go quote Shakespeare, right? To thyself be true. You have to know yourself. You have to know yourself. Like, you may not want that path for deeper reasons that are known to you. It's not some sort of social contagion necessarily. It's just you don't personally want it. And that's always been the case. There have always been people like that in society, or it's just where your life ended up taking you and you're okay with it. It's not about trying to shame these people, but you have to, like, we all have to understand the exception is not the norm. Like, if you're a very particular kind of artistic type, or you have a very, very specific kind of purpose and obsession, it may not induce you to family life. It just may not be that way. But for most guys, it's going to be the route. And if you're a guy who wants to get married, who wanted to have kids, but you're just saying, I'm not going to do it because of these reasons, those are the guys I'm saying you're fucking stupid. If you wanted to have kids, but you're refusing to do it because of the structures, cut off your nose to spite your face. No one else cares. You owned yourself. And that was the real propaganda. And that was why these structures were created, because they wanted people to give up. What you really want to do is you want to cut out the bad actors. So you don't want, like, if you have some crazy nut job woman, you don't want to commit to that woman because she's attractive or because of whatever. But there are plenty out there who are great. There are plenty of great women out there. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. There are so many great women out there. And guys got to get offline. If they think that everything from what they see online is reality. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't see some some messed up women out there too in real life, but you gotta love women. You have to love women on some level if you're gonna do well with women. And I think this is one of the reasons why, like, a little bit of like subtle misogyny ends up making guys better with women, because it allows them to see that women are different, which allows them to take so much pressure and demands off of them to be this thing that makes it so easy for them all the time. Like if you view women as they are, you should be able to have a lot of compassion and love for women. The only women that really are not worth it, completely not worth it, are women who have been completely communist psyoped. Those women, and they're the only women who, like, I can fix so many relationships. The guys willing to show up. The one I cannot do is if a woman is super shit lib. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't fix it. Some guys have the capacity to be patient with them because they're not necessarily as political themselves, but it is very tenuous because you never know if the distance is going to break suddenly, because it does happen, or if it's going to intensify. And there are some guys, if you have a very different political attitudes than this kind of woman, you are sunk being with them. There is nothing that you can do about it, man. There's nothing you can do about it. So, all right, gentlemen and ladies, Donna is going to be on here too. Appreciate all the kind words, guys. And we are done for today. I'll see you on the next show. Appreciate you coming on.